Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarva Vide Namaha. The first verse. Sukshmata vyapite jneye gandhaderuttarottaram pratyagatmavasaneshu purva purva prahanatah. Sukshmata vyapite jneye. Sukshmata and vyapita, these two have to be understood, seen, recognized. Uttarottaram jneye. In the following or subsequent, in a sequence of series, in every following member, we should see the sukshmata, the subtlety, the vyapita, the pervasiveness. Beginning from gandha dehe, beginning from gandha, which here stands for prithvi, beginning from the element prithvi, and then prithvi, ambu, etc. So in the five elements, in every subsequent one, we should recognize the sukshmata, subtlety, vyapita, pervasiveness, pura pura prahanatah. By giving up the previous one, meaning that by giving up the perception of the previous one, because the sukshmata and vyapita, both of them are present. Gneya, we have to see that. As the Tikakara explained, being of gandha, the prithvi. So what we perceive is prithvi. When you perceive the prithvi, or anything for that matter, so prithvi or any entity cannot be perceived or experienced without experiencing the material cause. An ornament cannot be experienced without experiencing the gold, the material cause, which means that the gold is very much there, it's a matter of seeing it. What is happening is that when my mind, basically, more than my eyes, the mind is preoccupied with the idea of ornament, at that time the mind does not make note of the gold which is present there, not present in the same manner that an ornament is present. An ornament is evident to the eyes or the organ of perception. That way the gold may not be in this particular case, otherwise the material cause may not be perceptible to sense organs, but it is perceptible to the mind. The mind does in some way experience the material cause, because without experiencing material cause, one cannot experience the karyan, the effect, the product. So even in the experience of Prithvi, the experience of water, the material cause is involved. The material cause is a sukshma, sukshmataram, and vyaptataram. The material cause is called more subtle. Not because it is subtle meaning smaller in size, but it is more difficult to perceive. Subtle in that sense. And so for perceiving the material cause, you make a special effort in your mind. The mind's eye, we have to see the material cause which is present there. It is more pervasive because it is present in more places than the effect. Whereas ornaments as Bengali is present only in one place and time, the gold, the material cause, is present in all ornaments and all places and time. In that sense, the material cause, the gold, is said to be more pervasive. Yeah, this is to be seen, which is there, has to be appreciated. So the Tikakara illustrated, for example, Tathahi, Chaturvida Bhutagram Upadana Rupa Prithvi, that there are fourfold beings, the Jarayujam, the Udbhijam, Andajam, Svedajam. All of the bodies which we call a being, basically, sentient entities, are all basically created from Prithvi. So Prithvi is the Upadanam, the material cause for all these beings, meaning their gross bodies. Now, when you perceive a human being, or a tree, or an insect, or an animal, even though Prithvi or earth is very much present there, as the material cause, it is not taken note of, not perceived. Not perceived as the same means of perception as the entities are perceived. So, therefore, tad bhuta peta apekshaya sukshma. Therefore, the Prithvi, which is the material cause of all the beings, you have to make a special effort to note that Prithvi is very much there. For that, the idea of the effect must be removed from the mind. To know the material cause, the idea, the buddhi of the karya must go, then alone the appreciation of karanam can come. In that sense, the upadana karanam is subtler than the karya. So you see, Prithvi is not noted. When you see all the bodies, you call it human being, you call it tree, you call it an animal, you don't call it Prithvi. And so, tat shabda, tat pratyavahara adarsanat. It's only when in the mind that we realize that Prithvi is there. But in the vyavahara and the shabda prayoga, we don't use the word Prithvi when dealing with the body. You don't use the word gold when you deal with an ornament. In that sense, Prithvi is there. That is why it's called Sukshma, subtler. And Prithvi is in more places than any karya, any being, therefore it is more pervasive. A question was raised. It is true that the human body is made up of Prithvi. So also a tree, so also an animal. But that Prithvi of which a given product is made is different from the Prithvi from which this body is made. It's not the same Prithvi, is it not so? The question. Prithvi amshaha bhinnaha iti. And there were those parts from which the given karya is made is different from. So the Prithvi from which the human body is made and the Prithvi from which a tree is made, are they not different? Are they not different Prithvis, the question was. Answer is that even though there are different parts of Prithvi, the Prithvi is not different. Just as a big pot or a big jar is made of clay, which may be clay from a pond, and the clay which is there in my front yard, those clay portions are different. But the clay is the same because when that big jar breaks into pieces and merges into clay in my front yard, therefore the clay is not different. Tasmat swakaryapeksha prithvi tavat sukshmat vyapika cha siddha. And therefore gandha dehe, beginning from gandha or prithvi. So Tikakara showed how the prithvi is sukshma, is subtler, more vyapi, pervasive as compared to the karya effect, which are the fourfold beings. So this is how the sukshmata vyapita, how to see this. How to see the sukshmata, the subtlety, vyapita, pervasiveness. The Tikakara showed us how to see that. It is present, but then you will see that in our mind's eye. That's called knowing that. The next element is water. So we continue the Tika. Tatha, same method has to be applied to appreciate the sukshmata vyapita of the subsequent uttarottaram, subsequent elements. The sequence is Prithvi, Apaha, Agnihi, Vayuhu, Akasha. In the creation, the sequence is different. Dissolution, the sequence is reversed. This is going from effect to the cause. Creation is from cause to the effect. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. But then, in the process of dissolution, the Prithvi, Apaha, Agni, Vayu, Akasha. So now next element in the sequence is Apaha, water. So says Tatha. Adbhi Vyapta Prithvi. When we appreciate Prithvi, we use the word Prithvi and a concept corresponding to the word Prithvi takes place in our mind. The word water or the corresponding concept doesn't take place in our mind. Meaning that we do not see or we do not know that the up or Prithvi, water is very much present in Prithvi. Then we have to see it in our mind's eye. Here the Tikakara quotes a passage from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Tatha adbhi vyapta Prithvi. The proposal, pratigna, Prithvi adbhi vyapta. Tatha similarly, just as the fourfold beings are pervaded by water, by earth, in a manner similar to that, the earth is pervaded by water. How do you say? Tadyad apam sharah asid tat samahanyata sa prithvi abhavat iti shrutau. So here the help is taken from the Shruti. This can be scientifically also shown, but here, because we are talking about Vedanta and talking about the ultimately Pratyagatma, and Pratyagatma is very much only the subject matter of Shruti. Therefore, Shruti is here shown how water is very much present in the earth. how earth is produced from water. Although Upanishad says, Adbyah Prithvi, from water the Prithvi was created. So that's a statement. This little sentence or passage from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad shows how we can see that the Prithvi is the product of water. Tadyat apam shara asid. What was the shara? Like a froth. On the water, there is froth. Tat samhanyata. That froth became solidified. Sa Prithvi abhavat. That solidified froth became Prithvi. So what was up or water itself became Prithvi or earth. Understand? There was this froth on the surface of the water. That froth became solidified. That became Prithvi. That means water became the Prithvi. That is what the statement from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. It is Shrutau Jala Parinam Visheshasya Sharashabdavachasya Dadhimandakarasya Prathiyat Prithviyatmatma Shravanat. Shravanat. Shrutya Pratipadana Shruti has in fact said this or revealed this. What is it? Jala Parina Visheshasya Sharashabdavachasya. The meaning of the word Shara, which is froth, which is Jala Parinama, which is the modification of water. Dadhimandakarasya. Like in the dahi or the curd, this water is there. So that froth is something similar. How that turns into curd, so also this becomes solidified into earth. Prithivya-atmatva shravanat. That how that froth is of the nature of Prithvi. So froth is produced from water and froth is of the nature of Prithvi. Therefore, Prithvi is produced from water. So this is what Shruti says. Do you have Yukti, have any experience? Says yes. Sveda prasravanade parvatagra shilayam antarbhumau cha sarvatra upalambhat. You can see water present everywhere in the earth. Parvatagra shilayam. Those rocks which are there on the surface of the mountains. In those rocks we find water. So, Sveda Prasravanade. You can see in the mountain rocks the water oozing out from them, If you, particularly in the monsoon, etc., you can see so many streams emerging from these mountains. Or you can see also, if you don't see it from a distance, if you're close to them, you can see also like this sweat, like perspiration. You can see the water in the rock, also the water can be seen. Sveda, prasravanam. Prasravanam means flow. So flowing water also is seen emerging from the rocks. Or present the water is seen like perspiration. थोड़ा आवाज मोटो करें. Parvatagra shilayam antarbhumau cha. Even this is the shila. But even the earth also you can see. Water emerging from earth. Or water present as the perspiration in the earth also. Which means that the water pervades the earth. Mountains or rocks are earth. The Prithvi also is earth. Everywhere we see the presence of water. So how water pervades the earth is also evident. So not only Shruti says that, but it is also our own observation. Rasasya cha, another one. Rasasya cha salila asadharana gunasya prithvivyam sarvatra upalambhat. Rasa means taste. Salila asadharana gunasya. Every element, Mahabhuta, has own asadharana guna, own particular quality. For example, sound is the special quality or attribute of the element space. Touch is the special attribute of the element air. So also the color of the fire and taste of the element earth, water. So the specific, unique quality or attribute of water, every element has a unique quality. It also inherits the quality from its cause. Its unique contribution also, so the water has a unique quality of taste. Therefore, salila asadharana gunasya rasasya. Rasa or the taste, which is the unique quality of the element water. Prithvivyam sarvatra upalambhat. In the earth, everywhere, there is always taste. Earth possesses taste wherever you, different kinds of tastes are there, no doubt. One thing is that earth possesses taste. And taste is a unique attribute of water. Therefore, the presence of taste shows that water is present there. But then when you taste is earth, sometimes it is bitter, sometimes it is sour. Taste is not the same. Katu tikshnattvadi bhedah parinama vishesha upadinibandhana iti. So how many rasas are there? How many tastes are there? Tasya ekatvepi. When the taste is one taste or one rasa, itself undergoes modification to become sweet or sour or bitter, etc. Katu tikshnattvadi bhedah parinama vishesha upadinibandhana. Depends upon the modification that the earth goes. Same rasa is experienced as the katu and tikshna, etc., etc. So that difference that you find in rasa is not because rasas are many, is because the earth undergoes different modifications, and there we find different modifications in rasa. Basically, same rasa is present everywhere in the earth. That shows that water, of which the quality rasa pervades the Prithvi everywhere. So three reasons are given. Shruti is given, observation of water present in earth is given, and the presence of water in the form of taste also is given here. To show how Prithvi is pervaded by rasa or by water. So therefore, what's the conclusion? Tasmat jalavyapta prithvi sapariнаmayati. Jalam prithivyaha vyapakam sukshmam cha pragukta yuktya siddham. Tasmat jalavyapta prithvi. Therefore, it is very clear that prithvi is vyapta, pervaded by jalam, by water. Saparinama. Prithvi along with all modifications. Because the difference in taste in different parts of earth is explained because earth undergoes different modifications. So earth and all the modifications of earth, they are all pervaded by water. Therefore, jalam prithivyaha vyapakam. Therefore, the water is more pervasive than earth. It pervades the earth and also is present where the earth is not. There are places where only water is and earth is not there. by Anvaya Vyatireka. Wherever earth is, water is there. But then water can be there, earth with the Vyatireka may be there. That also we said earlier is a way of establishing cause and effect relationship, or Vyapya Vyapaka. This shows that the earth is pervaded by water, or water is subtler than earth both. Jalam prithivyaha vyapakam sukshmam cha. Therefore, the water is prithivyaha, as compared to Prithvi, is pervasive as well as subtle. The Prithvi also has sukshmata and vyapita. Prithvi also has pervasiveness and subtleness compared to the karya or the products of Prithvi, which are this bhuta grama chatushtaya. So water also has pervasiveness and subtlety, so more pervasive and more subtle than Prithvi. Pravigna yuktya, by the Anvaya Vyatireka, is siddham. Then what's the next element? Is fire. Tatha, in a manner similar to that. Saprithvi jalam tejasa svakarena vyaptam pratigna. Jalam tejasa vyaptam. The water is pervaded by tejas or the element fire. So not only water is pervaded, but the modification of water also is pervaded. Just as earth is pervaded by water or the taste, so wherever earth is, all its modifications also are pervaded by water. So also, Prithvi is the modification of water. If water is pervaded by fire, then Prithvi, which is modification of water, also is pervaded by fire. So Jalam sa Prithvi, the water along with Prithvi, is Tejasa Vyaptam. Water is pervaded by Tejas or fire. Why is it so? So Svakaranena, because the Upadana Karanam is pervades the Karyam. So water is Karyam and fire is Upadana Karanam. Therefore, this water is pervaded by its material cause, namely fire. Jalam tejasa svakarena vyaptam. This is the cause and effect relationship. You do an observation. Sarvatra ushma upalambhat. In water everywhere, the warmth is there everywhere in water. Sarvatra in Prithvi also, everywhere the warmth is there. The warmth is the evidence of the presence of fire. But Swami, water can be cold also, but then it is warmer than ice and warmer than, so there are things that are colder and colder. Everything possesses warmth as compared to something that is cooler than that, So number one, that the water is produced from fire. Number two, wherever water is, fire is found. Number three, how water merges into fire. To ascertain the relationship of the material cause and effect, show how the effect is produced from cause, how effect is pervaded by the cause, how effect merges into cause. Tapta ayogo lakado surya kiraneshu cha udakasya laya darshanat. We can also see how the water merges into fire. Where? Tapta ayogo lakado. When you have a hot iron ball, for example, you sprinkle water on that, right away it merges. So hot iron ball is fire. In fire, the water merges right away. Surya kiraneshu cha. Or if you expose water to sunlight, water evaporates also. So water merges into fire. That's our experience. Udakasya darshanach. So we see how the water merges into its material cause, which is fire. How water is produced from fire, material cause, and how water is pervaded by fire, which is material cause. The effect is produced from material cause, effect is pervaded by material cause, and effect merges into material cause. That's how we establish a relationship of the cause and effect. So that's how fire is subtler and more pervasive than water. Uttarottaram pura prahanatah. Understand that we are giving up each previous one. This giving up is in the intellect, in the mind actually. Because to see that fire is present, pervading the water, you have to see it in your mind's eye. You can experience also, but the conclusion. The next is this fire and air. Tathacha evam tejasa jalavyapakatvam. Sukshma, concluding, Tathacha evam in this manner, tejasa jalavyapakatvam. That fire is more pervasive than water. Sukshmatvam cha, in subtleties prasiddham. This is also from Shruti, from experience and from reasoning also. Tadapi, that tejapi, that fire also, vayuna grastam, is always pervaded by vayu. And so the fire is always pervaded by vayu. Yataschodeti surya astam yatra gacchati iti. Pranadva esha udeti pranayastameti iti shrutehe. Prana shabdavachya vayu laya shravanat. Shruti shows how the fire merges into air. So that this statement, yataschodeti surya astam yatra gacchati iti. Yataschodeti surya. Where is it from which the sun rises? Astam yatra gacchati. And where does the sun ultimately merge? If that's a question, then answer is given. Pranadva esha udeti prane astameti. From prana the sun rises. In the prana the sun ultimately sets also. From the air the sun rise takes place. In the air the sunset takes place. It is Shruti. That's what the Shruti says. As far as our experience is concerned, the deep sleep state also, the sun stands for the eyes or the organs of perception. Deep sleep state, all the organs of perception, they all merge. Leaving prana, the breathing, continuing, meaning that all of them have merged into prana. So that is how the fire, which is sun, which is the even the organ of speech, decided by fire, that also merges into prana. Prana shabda vachya vayu laya shravanat. Because what is not evident to us, for that we may have to resort to Shruti. Therefore, Shruti says here that the sun merges into air. In the morning, the sun rises from the air, the evening, because air is very much, the air remains present. Air was present before the sunrise. Air continues to remain present after the sunset. That shows that sun comes after air and sun goes into air, or air remains after the sun. That's how the air and sun enjoy the cause and effect relationship, because the effect emerges from the material cause and merges back into material cause. that is seen between air and sun. Therefore, prana shabda vachya vayu, laya darshana shravanat, laya shravanat. The Shruti, Shrutya Pratipadanat. Shruti says how? The fire, sun stands for fire, or organ of speech stands for fire. Shruti is how they merge into prana, which is nothing but vayu, because prana is the breath, is the modification of vayu. And thus we see that fire merges into air. That's what Shruti says. What is our observation? ज्वाला रूपस्य च वन्ये वायवधीन प्रवृत्ति निवृत्ति दर्शनाच्च. ज्वाला रूपस्य वन्ये, vanya means fire. It is the nature of flame. So when do you say there is fire? When there is flame. Therefore, fire which is in the form of flame, pravritti and vritti darshanad. The pravritti of the flame also depends on air. When you want to produce fire by rubbing the pieces of wood by ironing, then you blow air. If you don't blow air, then the fire cannot sustain. And therefore we find that pravritti, the pravritti or the being of the fire depends upon the air, because it requires oxygen to burn anyway, by scientifically. Nivritti darshana, the same flame also will be wiped out if there is too much air. So flame can arise and sustain only when air or oxygen is there. Same flame also will go out in too much air. So pravritti and nivritti of the flame, that is fire, is seen as dependent upon air. And therefore, vanni adhina, we can see how, vayu adhina, how vanni of the fire is dependent upon air. Therefore, air is the cause, fire is the effect, air is subtler, more pervasive, etc. So grasta means wherever the fire is, there the air is present. Vayuscha akashena grasta iti prasiddham. Now we do not necessarily see the vayu or air where the fire is, therefore we have to resort to Shruti. But that the vayu is always pervaded by space is very evident to us. You don't need Shruti for that. Vayuscha akashena grasta iti prasiddhameva etada. It is well known to everybody that this air is always sustained by, pervaded by, supported by space. Therefore, that is evident. That space is the cause of vayu. So Matarishva, vayu is called Matarishva in the Ishavasya Upanishad. Matarishva iti Matarishva. Matar in the mother, Shvayati gacchati. So one that moves about in the mother. So vayu moves about in the space. Space is the cause called mother. Vayu is the effect. So it's called Matarishva. And therefore it is prasiddham. As far as the space is concerned, it is very clear or evident that the air is always pervaded and supported and sustained by space. Space is there even when the air is not. And space is always there where the air is. By Anvaya Vyatirika also, you can see how the space is cause of vayu, pervading the vayu, subtler than the vayu. Sukshmatvam tu vyakhyatava. So pervasiveness is shown. So sukshmatvam, subtlety also you can see. Because where pervasiveness is there, the subtlety is there. So that's how. So pura prahanatah, by merging the previous one. resolving the previous one. The merger may be a physical process or it can be a mental process. So either you break the pot and see that it merges into clay, or you can appreciate even when the pot is not broken, you can see how in your mind's eye that the pot is always pervaded by the clay. So that's how Pura Prahanata, by resolving the previous one. Uttarottaram Sukshmata Vyapite Jneye Gandhade Uttarottaram. So it is shown how Gandhade, beginning of Gandha of the Prithvi, Uttarottaram, in every subsequent element, Sukshmata Vyapite Jneye, Sukshmata and Vyapita are to be known. Once you know and when you are clear, then you know. What is the ultimate material cause? Space is the ultimate material cause of all the five elements. So space is subtler than all elements and more pervasive than all elements. This is established. Now you go further. Because Pratyagatma avasanatah, this process should conclude in Pratyagatma. So say the Tika, Etat sarvam satta sphurtibhyam vyaptameva anubhuyate iti. Etat sarvam, beginning from earth all the way up to space. Satta sphurtibhyam vyaptameva anubhuyate. All of these, each one of them and all of them are experienced as accompanied by or pervaded by satta, spurti, asti, bhati. That prithvi, asti, bhati, etc. And also the akash, asti, bhati. So each one of them is necessarily experienced along with the experience of satta and spurti, existence and manifestation. Satta spurtibhyam vyaptameva anubhuyate. No, this is what again is to be noted in our mind. Even though the material cause is experience, as long as our mind is preoccupied with the effect, so long we do not note that. So when we only see Prithvi and Jalam, etc., at that time we may not note that Asti Bhati are very much experienced. So now that our mind also has become concentrated, has become subtle, then we can see that each one of them is also pervaded by Satta and Spurti, Asti and Bhati. It is Sanchinmatram Saraswapadanam. So there is everywhere Satchit are present, Asti Bhati are present. And therefore, Asti Bhati Upadanam, the material cause of all of this. So therefore, we went up to Asti Bhati now. Avyaktat Purushah Parah Purushanna Param Kinchit Sa Kastha Sa Paragatihi. These five elements are the cause. You could have introduced a step in between Avyakta, the Prakriti or the Maya, which is what Kathopanishad talks about. Avyaktat Purushah Parah, superior to Maya, Avyakta and manifest Prakriti, more pervasive, subtler, inner self, controller is Purusha, consciousness, Asti Bhati. So if this sequence, that every following one is followed by every following one is followed by also a subtler and more pervasive entity, then it looks like subtler and more pervasive than Purusha consciousness also must be there. Therefore Upanishads say, Purushanna param kinchit. There is nothing param, superior, subtler, more pervasive than Purusha. Sa kastha, sa paragatihi. That is parakastha, paragatihi. Purusha is the culmination of this sequence of pervasiveness, subtleness, selfness, innerness. Each following one is inner compared to the previous one, more pervasive, subtler, and inner as compared to the previous one. Is there something more pervasive, subtler, and inner to Ashtibhadi? Says no. How do you say that? Tasya cha arthantarena anugama adarsanat. See, earth is, we find that accompanied by water. And everything is accompanied by Ashtibhati. Therefore, you can then separate the water from earth and recognize earth as separate. Is there something that you can separate from Ashtibhati and find that Ashtibhati also is pervaded by something? He says, no. Tasya cha arthantarena anugama adarsanat. We do not find Ashtibhati is anugatam, is accompanied with by something else. The Ashtibhati accompanies everything. Is there something other than Ashtibhati that accompanies Ashtibhati? It says no. Tasya cha arthantarena anugama darshanat. We do not find Ashtibhati as accompanied by something other than that. Nirupadanakatve siddhe. What accompanies is upadana karanam. The pot is accompanied by clay and therefore clay is the upadana karanam. And similarly, everything is accompanied by Ashtibhati. Therefore, Ashtibhati is the upadana karanam of everything. Is there something else that pervades Ashtibhati? No. That means Ashtibhati doesn't have an upadana karanam. It is nirupadanakam. The Ashtibhati does not have an upadana karanam. That means Ashtibhati is not a karyam. Means what? Self-existing, self-shining. The karya does not exist by itself. The existence to karyam is given by upadana karanam. The sphurti, manifestation of karyam, also is provided by upadana karanam. So is there something else that provides the satta and sphurti to Ashtibhati? No. Therefore, Ashtibhati are self-existing, self-shining. While providing existence to everything, Asti is self-existing. While providing manifestation to everything, Bhati is self-manifest. Therefore, Nirupadanakatve siddhe. Ashtibhatya Nirupadanam, meaning that they are devoid of upadanam, they don't have upadana karanam, they are not karyam, they did not come into existence, that means they always existed. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipaha. Here Arjuna, it is not that I was not there earlier, you were not there, we were always there. We will always be there. That means we are nitya. This is very important. Because science cannot show this. Science will follow the same prakriya. That everything is produced from something else. So God may be the cause of everything. Who is the cause of God? That is what science will have to ask. That there is something self-existing, self-shining, they will ridicule that. Uncreated creator. That doesn't go into logic, you follow? Because you do not find anything uncreated. Every creator also is created. And then you come along and say, hey, Ishvara is uncreated, created. They will ridicule it. Where do you find that? You have an evidence? Do you see anywhere that something is there and not created? You cannot. with whatever the means of knowledge can know. The organs of perception, mind, they always know or perceive or experience something that is created. So as far as science is concerned, whatever we experience is always created. We have never experienced uncreated thing, you follow? So then when you say that there is uncreated creator, it doesn't fall into this category of science, you follow? They will ridicule that. Uncreated creator, uncaused cause. They will ridicule that. Thus they ridicule all scriptures. Scriptures talk about God as uncaused cause. They laugh at you. Because they do not realize that what all you are experiencing is different from you. There is an experiencer who is different from experienced. And therefore the rules that apply to experienced need not apply to experiencer, but that's beyond their perception, beyond their scope. What is in their scope is what can be objectified is in the scope of science. But the objectifier cannot be objectified. Therefore, self can never become the object of investigation by scientific ways. Science will cause and effect. And therefore, the self or the consciousness cannot become the object of investigation. They cannot accept the existence of something anyway. Something can become the object of investigation provided you accept its existence. They cannot accept the existence of something that is not experienced. And what is experienced is always created. And so, therefore, this does not fall in the scope of science. So that is where you have to come to Shruti, which they will not. They are too proud to accept any pramanam other than buddhi. For science, buddhi is ultimate. Buddhi means reasoning, tarka. Tarkikas they are. So all our tarkikas, they come to conclusion with tarkas, all the science. But tarkikas claim also to accept Shruti, so they may accept Ishvara and try to show the tarka to establish Ishvara or something, which cannot be, but anyway they try. So tasya nirupadanakatva siddhe asti bhate nirupadanakam, they don't have a upadanakaranam, they are not caused. Nirapeksha vyapakatvam, the cause certainly pervades the effect, is more pervasive than effect. Every cause has a cause, therefore it is less pervasive than its own cause. Asti bhati is no cause. And therefore it is nirapeksha vyapakam. Unsurpassable pervasiveness the asti bhati possesses. Pragukta paripatya nirape nirade sukshmatvam cha, and we saw how what is more pervasive also is subtler. The asti bhati is most pervasive, is also most subtle. Siddhyati. So asti bhati prema is the subtlest and most pervasive. So pratyagatma vyavasaya, it means all avasanam. All this process in science will at the most culminate into avyakta, energy, avyakta, unmanifest. That they will accept. Even though avyakta also is not an object of experience, still you will accept a cause of the same category as effect. Here in Vedanta talks about a cause of a category different from effect. That is where the difference is. Vedanta talks about rope snake. Snake is what you experience. Rope is a cause of snake of a category different from snake. A reality different from the reality of snake. Tat anena satchin matrena sarvasya dushyanasehe gastatvat. Therefore, dushyarasi, whatever is dushyam, objectified, experienced, is all grastam, is invariably pervaded by asti bhati satchin matrena, by sat and chit. Therefore, na tataha prasakya vastu vidyate. An effect cannot exist separate from or independent of the material cause. If asti bhati is the material cause of everything, then nothing exists separate from asti bhati or independent of asti bhati. Therefore, na tadha prasak kivi vastu vidyate. Na kivi vastu, there is nothing at all. Prathak vidyate, which exists separate or independent of asti bhati or satchit. Iti tasya parama sukshmata vyapite nischitya. So this is how in our mind, our intellect, we come to nischaya, a conviction, an ascertained understanding that asti bhati is the subtlest, more pervasive, all pervasive. Nothing is apart from that, it is apart from everything. That's another thing. The effect is not separate from material cause. Effect is not independent of material cause, whereas material cause is independent of the effect. There was nothing in the universe of names and forms is independent of asti bhati or satchit, whereas that is independent. Masthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avasthitah. Idasya parama sukshmata vyapite nischitya. Then nacha masthani bhutani. Then in fact those things are mithya. What is pervaded is mithya. What is objectified, what is perceived is always pervaded, is mithya. And what pervades is satyam. And what pervades everything is satchit. And therefore it is parama satyam. Tasya parama sukshmata vyapite. So then, na param kinchit sa kastha sa paragati. The parakastha of sukshmata, parakastha of vyapita. Paragati, the ultimate goal or ultimate thing to be known. Nischitya. So this nischaya should arise. That's how knowledge takes place. So that satchit is again, now that's where again Upanishad comes. Tattvamasi. That Satchit is not separate, you are that. Arriving at Satchit first, Soham, that I am. Asanga, Kutastha, Advaya Atma. Asanga, unconnected, unrelated, independent. Kutastha, changeless. Advaya, non-dual, that's also. That from the standpoint of effect, the material cause is non-dual. There can be countless ornaments. One ornament enjoys an existence separate from other ornament. The gold is non-dual. So material cause is non-dual with reference to effect. Satchit is non-dual with reference to universe of names and forms. So aham, soham, asangoham, kutastoham, advitiyoham iti sada bhavet. Therefore, may one contemplate upon oneself in this manner that I am the Parama Sukshma, Parama Vyapi, Asangaha, Kutastha, Advitiya. Iti sada bhavet. May you thus all the time contemplate upon the self. Iti tatparya, that is the tatparya. The purport of this verse is not simply the sequence of subtlety, etc. All of that sequence, so pratyagatma avasanam, it all culminates pratyagatma, the innermost self, and that's what I am. Iti, so even though it is not stated clearly in the verse only said pratyagatma avasaneshu pura prahanatah. But this is not just a academic exercise to know this. It is not an academic thing. Soham, this is a means of self-knowledge, which knowledge is a means of freedom. To recognize that Asti Bhadi always free, asanga, unconnected, advitiya, kutastha. So this knowledge is the means of freedom. Therefore, this is not simply an academic exercise of determining subtlety and pervasiveness. It is tatparyartha, the purport is that it is the means of contemplating upon the self, how nothing excludes the self, self pervades everything and excludes everything. Self is immanent, pervasive and transcendent. It includes everything but is not included in anything. That is how the truth is, must be everywhere, at the same time must be independent. So there is tatparya, that's the purport of this verse. Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.